Attack on Titan is my absolute favorite anime and manga ever, and maybe even my favorite show of all time. It's the very first thing I recommend to my friends, and it's for good reason, because it's awesome. But something most people won't agree with me on is my favorite character, in fact. Bertholdt Hoover is not the most common name you hear when asking about people's favorite Attack on Titan characters. And that's for a good reason, because why would people choose the guy whose name no one can even spell or pronounce properly as their favorite when there are much better characters like Levi and Eren? Bertholdt is mostly a quiet character throughout the series, who most fans would probably even characterize as boring, until he reveals himself to be the Colossal Titan. But even then, he mainly just stays in Reiner's shadow up until the end of Season 3, where he eventually dies. Except, that's not entirely true. I believe Bertholdt is actually massively written in a truly compelling character that amplifies the character arcs of others, such as Reiner and Armin. Here's why. For a first-time viewer, there are lots of characters who are introduced rapidly in the beginning of the show, and although a good amount of them do end up dead by the end of the first half, there's still a lot that viewers are expected to keep their eyes on throughout the entire show. Reiner and Bertholdt, two characters that are always together during the few scenes they have in the beginning of the first season, and I say few, but they do have a lot. It's just they're mostly grouped in the background with a bigger conflict and are never ever the focus. Reiner is always depicted as a cool, tough guy, described as being the big brother to most characters, while Bertholdt is calm and quiet. It's only up until the end of Season 2 episode Warriors where we discover the huge secret these two characters have been hiding for the very first time. Now, when I first watched this episode, I disliked how Reiner just straight up said they were Titans, and then all of a sudden transformed. I actually thought it was pretty lazy writing, like the writers weren't really sure how to make the revelation, which they might have thought was already past due. However, looking back on this episode, in the scenes starting with Reiner's monologue and ending with Eren's transformation, it's easily one of my favorite moments from the whole show, and probably one of my favorite moments from all of anime. I think it was massively done and really works to serve the fans who go back and rewatch the entire series to see how it was really all planned out from the beginning. I could write an entire another essay on not just the episode itself, but these exact scenes. Anyway, Bertholdt says literally nothing in these scenes and mainly just lets Reiner do all the talking while he rants on about the stuff that none of the other characters even understand. Yet, that is. Bertholdt gets shocked when Reiner reveals her secret to Eren so casually with absolutely no hesitation, as he clearly knows they've been so careful the past couple years making sure that they make no mistakes with their plan after they lost the Jaw Titan. And when Reiner finally takes off his cast and that yellow electric Titan current starts flowing through his arm, Bertholdt freaks out like Reiner just ruined everything, because, well, he actually did. Instantly, Mikasa slices Bertholdt's neck and almost kills him, almost ending his story right there, as it's probably possible she suspected that he was more likely to be the Colossal Titan. The takeaway from these moments that Bertholdt has, because really Reiner just steals the whole spotlight here, is that he's not independent of himself whatsoever. He doesn't try to stop Reiner, and makes super poor attempts at trying to persuade Eren into thinking Reiner is just tired. Even if Mikasa didn't almost kill him, I still think Bertholdt would have turned into the Colossal Titan anyway per Reiner's order, despite him clearly being very concerned with his planning. The two characters flash yellow and turn into their Titans. Reiner has a very angry face, while Bertholdt is visibly crying. Now, there are three moments that really line up in Bertholdt's character arc leading up to his death, and the very first is in Season 2. While Bertholdt holds Eren hostage within the Armored Titan as they try to run to take Eren and Ymir back to Marley, the scouts try to question Bertholdt and guilt him into revealing their motives and what is really happening. Bertholdt completely loses it and starts to break down crying, saying that he does not enjoy killing people and that in reality, no one really does. However, he reveals nothing major about Marley and how he's been forced to do this since he was a little kid. This is huge because even though Bertholdt is very conflicted throughout these moments, he still doesn't give up what he's been trained to do since he was a little kid. And you can't just say, well, he didn't reveal anything about Marley because Isayama and the other writers had not even thought of Marley yet, and this obviously is just not true. I'm not going to spoil anything, but as someone who has been reading the manga for years and has fully completed it, it's more than obvious that Isayama had more than just Marley planned out at the time of Season 2's production. And the reason these scenes are so important is that it shows that Bertholdt is a very fragile person and character. After Eren and Ymir are taken captive, Reiner makes them all stop on their way back to Marley. Ymir has an awesome moment where she points out that Reiner is clearly insane, and that Bertholdt has been having to deal with it most likely this entire time, and she's right. Reiner, in disguising himself among the Eldian soldiers in the walls, in the plan to capture the Founding Titan, he tricked himself into believing that he was actually an Eldian soldier, fighting for humanity's freedom. And occasionally, he would switch back to warrior mode, where he would make radical moves to try and capture the Founding Titan on impulse. It's a great visual that shows Reiner holding his head, clearly going mad, and Bertholdt quietly sitting against a tree, as it is clear that Ymir is right. Bertholdt completely allows himself to be controlled by Reiner, who can't even control himself. It's clear at this point that Bertholdt totally regrets all of his actions, and knows that he can never atone for the weight of his sins. He wants the friends he's made inside the walls to accept him, because like he says, he genuinely saw them as friends and wanted to grow old with them. And while it never feels like a possibility that Bertholdt could betray Reiner, since, even as viewers, we have no clue what their motives are during the first 3 seasons, Bertholdt let out so much emotion after their betrayal that he clearly wanted the scouts to know that what he is doing, he knows is wrong. Now, at this point, I've made it clear that Bertholdt is not a strong character like Erwin or Reiner, and he's not a cool badass character like Levi and Mikasa. He's not a crazy enraged character like Eren, and he's nowhere near a comedy character like Sasha or Hanji. He's a very serious person whose motives are dictated by everyone around him but himself, and I think he shares this with only one other character, and that's Armin. And this brings you right to Season 3, where Reiner has just been defeated, and he lets out his last scream as a cue for Bertholdt to nuke Shiganshina. Just as Bertholdt is about to transform out of his barrel to kill every scout in an instant, he sees Reiner with a gaping hole out of his nape, and he flies down onto him, completely going against Zeke's plan. To me, this is the exact turning point in Bertholdt's arc that a lot of viewers just gaze over. In the end of Season 3 Part 1, we see the Armor Titan defeated by the Beast Titan, and Bertholdt rushing over to Reiner's aid to make sure he's alright. So, what his actions are here is not out of Bertholdt's nature at all. He's tried to save Reiner countless times already. It's the same as when he transformed into the Colossal Titan in the episode Warriors, even though he knew their plan made absolutely no sense. In Season 3 Part 2, we get a brief discussion between Reiner, Bertholdt, and Zeke on top of Wall Maria, where Reiner tells Bertholdt that he doesn't need to always wait for his signal and that he's free to act independently in order to achieve the mission. Reiner even tells Bertholdt himself that he never thought of him as reliable, and Bertholdt says he knows. Right here, this is where Bertholdt accepts. He realizes that he knows that he's a fragile person and that he's never made any decisions for himself. It's at this moment when Bertholdt agrees to quote-unquote end it, where his arc is completed and his fate is set in stone. After all the chances he's had to reason with the scouts and atone for his sins, he decides that he cannot change his fate. He goes along with the mentally insane Reiner in his last fight before his death. Once Bertholdt does tend to Reiner, he flies over to Armin, where Bertholdt reaches his point of no return in his character arc. The moment where Bertholdt declares he can see the clearest he's ever been able to see, like he isn't nervous at all, for the first time in his life. He has a back and forth fight with Armin, then he flies up above the town and transforms into the Colossus Titan, where he decides that he's accepted all outcomes and whatever happens will be okay. Although Bertholdt has had numerous chances to go against Reiner and decide his own actions, when he especially knows what he's doing is wrong, he never does. He never acts on his own. He always cowers behind an emotionally torn Reiner who can't control himself. When Bertholdt is finally given the chance to negotiate, the one thing he's been looking for, he makes a wrong decision. He declares to Armin that all of humanity inside the walls must die and there can be no exception. It's at this moment that he sealed his fate. When he had the opportunities to do what was right, he never did, and instead he took orders from Reiner every time. When Reiner was down and he was given one last chance to decide the outcome himself, he did exactly what the crazed Reiner would have done, sealing his fate and leading to his death. Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 2 is coming out in just a month, and although I have finished the manga, I have tons of ideas that I would love to make into videos. I truly think that Attack on Titan is a masterpiece, and I want to share this feeling with whoever I can. Thanks for watching.